The wind howled like a living creature, clawing at the darkness as if trying to warn anyone still outside to run for shelter. Hours later, people in town would ask the same question over and over: why did a single father risk his life in the deadliest blizzard in 20 years? But if you asked him, he would say he never expected the person he rescued to change his entire world, because he didn't know she was the wealthiest woman in the territory, or that she'd come carrying secrets heavy enough to break anyone's spirit. But that night, all he saw was a faint beam of light swaying in the storm, like a hand reaching for help. Tucker Hale had just put his 7-year-old son, Rowan, to bed when the warning sirens blared across the small mountain valley they lived in. The sheriff's department was urging everyone to stay inside. Visibility outside had dropped to almost nothing. Snow slapped against Tucker's cabin with enough force to rattle the windows, and the electricity flickered so often that moving through the house felt like stepping in and out of shadow. Most people listened. Most people locked their doors and stayed warm. But Tucker was not most people. He had spent the late evening staring at the flickering power lines, worried they would fail completely. Rowan had asthma. Severe. Cold air triggered it. Tucker needed the backup generator outside to work, and if it didn't, he needed to fix it before the temperatures dropped any further. After tucking Rowan beneath an extra quilt, he pulled on his coat, boots, and gloves that were frayed from years of work. He grabbed a flashlight and opened the door. The cold bit into his skin instantly. Even with the porch light glowing behind him, the world looked like a swirling white curtain. He trudged through knee-deep snow toward the generator shed, each gust pushing him sideways. The storm was merciless, a force that cared nothing for his fears, dreams, or the little boy sleeping inside. He knelt by the generator, brushing off layers of ice. He barely worked a minute when something strange cut through the wind. A flicker. A glow. Far down the hill near the old logging road, a tiny, unsteady light blinked in and out of sight. He froze. No one should have been out there. Not in this weather. The road had been closed hours earlier. He tried to dismiss it as a trick of the storm. But then he heard it, a faint, almost swallowed cry carried by the wind. Tucker's stomach tightened. He looked back at the cabin, then toward the light again. He didn't want to go. It was reckless. It was stupid. But he couldn't pretend he hadn't seen or heard something. He stood up, zipped his coat to his chin, tightened his scarf, and made a decision that would alter everything that came after. He went toward the light. The snow felt heavier the farther he walked, as if the storm was trying to turn him back. His flashlight beam struggled to cut through the white haze, and his boots kept sinking into drifts that swallowed his shins. Every few steps, he stopped to listen. The cry came again, clearer this time, pained and desperate. He followed it until it led him to something he didn't expect, a black luxury SUV stuck in a snowbank, its front end smashed against a fallen tree. The headlights were half buried, and the engine was dead. The driver's door was open, snow piled inside like it was trying to claim whoever had been sitting there. Tucker rushed forward. A woman lay near the hood, struggling to lift herself. Her coat was torn, her hair dusted with ice, and her gloved hand clutched her side as though every breath hurt. She looked up at him with wide eyes, blue, frightened, and glassy from the cold. "Please, help," she whispered, her voice barely audible over the wind. Tucker didn't hesitate. He knelt beside her. "I've got you. Don't try to move." She tried anyway, wincing. I tried to get to town. I lost control." "You shouldn't be out here," he said, though not unkindly. "Can you stand?" "I don't know." He wrapped her arm around his shoulder and lifted her carefully. She sucked in a breath, face twisting in pain. "I think, something's wrong with my ribs," she murmured. "We'll get you warm first," he said. "My place isn't far." Using his body to shield her from the wind, he helped her inch up the hill step by exhausting step. She stumbled several times, nearly collapsing, but he tightened his grip every time. Halfway up, she gasped, "Why are you helping me? You don't even know who I am." He looked at her through the storm. "Because you're someone who needs help. That's enough." When they finally reached his cabin, Tucker kicked the snow off his boots and pushed the door open with his shoulder. Warmth from the fireplace rushed out, and Rowan's sleepy voice drifted from the hallway. "Dad? Is everything okay?" Tucker guided the woman inside. "Everything's fine, bud. Go back to bed." But Rowan didn't move. He stared at the stranger, at her shaking hands, at the frost on her eyelashes. Tucker helped her to the couch, pulled a blanket over her, and knelt to remove her soaked boots. She shivered, teeth chattering. "Thank you. I didn't think anyone would be out there." "Lucky timing," he said. But she shook her head weakly. "No. Luck doesn't explain it." Tucker had no idea that the moment he brought her inside, he unknowingly stepped into a story woven by fate, one involving money, power, danger, and truths she was terrified to speak out loud. He only knew his night wasn't going to be simple. What he didn't know was that his entire life had just changed. The cabin crackled with the soft popping of burning logs, a sound that had always soothed Tucker after long days. But tonight, the air felt tighter, thicker, with the weight of the stranger sitting on his couch, pale and trembling beneath one of his old blankets. Rowan crept closer, his small frame bundled in pajamas printed with tiny rockets. He was cautious, curious, and unafraid in the innocent way only children could be. "Dad, who is she?" Tucker gently tousled his son's hair. "Someone who got stuck in the storm. She's hurt, so we're helping her warm up." Rowan nodded, examining her with wide eyes, then whispered, "She looks like she needs soup." The woman managed a weak smile. "I would take anything warm." Tucker stood. "Stay still. I'll get something." In the kitchen, he grabbed a pot, poured in broth, added noodles and vegetables, and set it on the stove. Over the hiss of the burner, he kept glancing back. The woman sat stiffly, one arm wrapped around her ribs, her gaze wandering his small but cozy home, the rough wooden beams, the patched couch cushions, the worn boots by the door. She seemed startled by something so simple. As if warmth itself felt foreign. Rowan sat cross-legged on the rug near her, watching the frost slowly melt off her hair. "I'm Rowan," he said softly. She blinked, as if waking from a daze. "Hi, Rowan. I'm Elise." Tucker heard the name and frowned. Elegant. Polished. It didn't match the storm-battered traveler on his couch. But he didn't push. When the soup was ready, he helped her sit straighter, though she winced at the movement. He held the bowl close so she wouldn't have to lift it much. "You should eat slowly," he advised. Elise nodded, her cold fingers brushing his for a moment. She inhaled deeply, the steam fogging her lashes, then took a small sip. Relief softened her face. Rowan leaned closer, whispering loudly, "Dad makes the best soup. Better than the restaurant in town." Tucker snorted. "You're biased, kid." "It's still true." Elise let out the faintest laugh, but even that made her flinch. Her hand gripped her ribs. "Let me look at that," Tucker said. "You don't have to." "I know I don't have to. But I'm going to." He knelt beside her, lifting the blanket to assess her injury. Even through her sweater he could see swelling along her left side. "That's not good," he murmured. "Just bruised," she insisted, though her strained voice betrayed her. "I'm not a doctor, but I've seen enough injuries to know when something's wrong. When the storm settles, I'm taking you to the clinic." She stiffened. "No. No clinic." Tucker looked up sharply. "You need medical attention." "I'll be fine," she whispered. Rowan studied her. "Are you scared of doctors?" Elise blinked, startled. "No, sweetheart. I'm not scared of doctors." She looked away, as if wrestling with thoughts she wished she could hide. Tucker didn't push further, but her reaction settled uncomfortably in his chest. Something wasn't right. Several minutes passed in silence. The storm hammered the cabin walls like a giant demanding to be let inside. Elisa's breathing remained shallow, careful. Rowan rested his head on Tucker's knee, fighting sleep. Then Elise spoke, voice barely above a whisper. "I didn't mean to drag you into my mess." "You didn't drag me anywhere," Tucker said. "I found you. That's all." "But you didn't have to bring me inside," she replied. "You didn't have to risk anything." Tucker shrugged. "People help each other. That's how it should be." Her eyes softened, distant. "Not everywhere." He studied her carefully. The fine stitching of her coat. The expensive boots. The subtle jewelry on her wrist. None of it matched the broken-down SUV or a lone traveler story. "You live around here?" he asked lightly. "No. I was visiting someone." He waited, but she offered nothing else. "Why were you on the logging road?" Tucker pressed. She hesitated, then whispered, "I needed to leave quickly, and my GPS took me the long way. I didn't realize how fast the storm was coming." It wasn't a lie. But it wasn't the truth either. Before Tucker could question further, Rowan yawned loudly. "Dad, I'm sleepy." Tucker scooped him up. "All right, buddy. Back to bed." Rowan waved sleepily at Elise. "Night, Miss Elise. Please don't be hurt too bad." She swallowed hard. "Good night, Rowan." Once Tucker tucked his son in, he returned to find Elise staring at the fire, her hands clasped tightly in her lap. "You're safe here," he said gently. Her throat bobbed as she nodded. "I know." But she didn't look convinced. He grabbed a chair and sat across from her. The storm outside pressed against the windows like an angry drumbeat. "You're running from something," he said softly. Her eyes flicked to his, startled. "I'm not asking for details," Tucker continued. "But if you're in danger, I need to know. I have a child in this house." His calmness was steady, but his gaze had sharpened, protective. Elisa's lips trembled. "I would never bring danger to a child," she whispered. "Never." Her voice broke on the last word. Tucker leaned back, watching her. She wasn't lying, at least not about that. But she was hiding something deep, heavy, and painful. He exhaled long and slow. "All right. Then we rest. In the morning, we figure things out." Elise nodded again, her breath shaky. She sank deeper into the couch cushions, exhaustion pulling at her features. Tucker threw another log into the fire, then settled into the chair, determined to stay awake. He wasn't leaving her unguarded, not until he understood more. What Tucker didn't know was that even as she fell asleep, Elise fought the urge to tell him everything. Who she was. Why she fled. And why powerful people would come looking for her if she didn't return. But for one night, she was safe. And for the first time in years, she wasn't alone. When Tucker woke at dawn, the storm had softened into a quiet drizzle of snowflakes. Elise was still asleep on the couch, her face finally relaxed, her breathing steadier than the night before. For the first time since he found her, she didn't look like someone running from the world. But the peace didn't last long. A knock rattled the door, sharp, aggressive, and repeated. Tucker's entire body tensed. Rowan peeked from the hallway, but Tucker motioned him back into his room. He approached the door slowly, every protective instinct burning in his chest. Through the small window, he saw a man in a sleek coat and polished gloves. Not a neighbor. Not a local. Someone out of place. Tucker opened the door only a crack. "Can I help you?" "I'm looking for a woman," the man said. "Traveling alone. Black SUV. We believe she may have passed through this area." Tucker's heartbeat thudded loud in his ears. She's not here. The man studied him, eyes sharp. If you see her, it's urgent that you contact us. She belongs with us. Belongs. The word chilled Tucker more than the storm. When the man finally walked off, Tucker shut the door and locked it twice. Elise stood in the hallway now, one hand on the wall for support, her eyes full of dread. They found me, she whispered. Who were they? Tucker demanded. Elise swallowed. My family's security team. I'm the heir to the Marin fortune. Companies, land, investments, all of it. And they want me back under their control. Every move I make is watched. Every decision questioned. I escaped last night because I couldn't breathe anymore. Tucker stared, stunned. She wasn't just wealthy, she was part of a dynasty. But she looked at him not with pride, but with fear. I'm so tired of surviving places where no one cares who I really am, she said softly. But here, you helped me without knowing anything about me. Tucker stepped closer. You're safe here. And you deserve to choose the life you want. Her eyes filled with tears as she whispered, no one has ever said that to me. For the first time, Elise felt seen, not as a title, not as money, but as a human being. And for the first time, Tucker realized that rescuing her in the storm wasn't fate, it was the beginning of both of them finding something they'd been missing. A reason to hope again.